I am here. It's my screen gone for me. Right, I'll have to edit that bit out, or maybe I won't. So gremlins are in the system this week. Was just talking to Jack about the fact that I can't find cables all over the place. I did a podcast in the passenger seat of the van yesterday, talking to Damo. My camera's just gone on the blink, so hopefully somehow we have a podcast, and I've gone funny again now on the screen. It won't matter for the audio version. So if you're listening on the audio version, it doesn't matter. But if you're on YouTube and you wanted to see me, you can't because the screen's gone all funny. But it will.
I think it's post-spine madness. Things are still drying out and warming up, I think, after all the...
I think you could be right, actually. You could be right, because I've carted all this gear all around with me, like all over the course, like in a bag rattling around in the back of my van. So I wouldn't be surprised if everything's sort of been spined and it's, got damp and cold. And so we'll see what happens. Maybe my camera will sort itself out. I might even unplug it, plug it back in again, see if that helps. We'll see what happens. Yeah, there we go. Working. Right, okay. So I might edit that bit out. I might not. Welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast, Jack Scott.
Hello, thanks for having me back after, what was it, 3 weeks ago?
You are the fastest returning guest. That is 100% true.
I'll take that's good. Anything being the fastest is good.
Yes, being the fastest, that is something that as ultra runners we aspire to.
Absolutely.
And so the spine then, firstly, congratulations on a well-fought second place.
Thank you.
We will go into the details about the time penalty and everything, but it was, as far as spine conditions, as far as the spine goes, that gap is close, isn't it? 40 minutes. That is, as far as the spine is concerned, that is like pretty much breathing down each other's necks. So, firstly, then, congratulations on that. But how have you recovered then? Firstly, from such a big effort.
Yeah. So recovery has been good. I mean, I've thought outside the box with a couple of things. With added physio sessions. I think I've had 6 since the spine, so I'm blessed to be sponsored by one just up the road, Shape Your Future, Hildeston. Tom, been absolutely incredible. Got an amazing setup and technology, and we've been right on top of things. Also, my other physio, Steve. So I prioritised that. Fueling, I've eaten everything I can. That finished probably Sunday. So after the race, I was on the scales. 4 days later, I'd lost 1.5 kg. So post-race, I'm probably more like 2 kg. So 1.5 under, and now I've got my weight back to where I want to be. My appetite's been vast, and it's been nice to sort of eat and drink, and just everything felt like it mattered. All the energy was banked. So that was good. There's nothing really new with the body, which is nice. So physically, not far away. Mentally, I've had a few waves of emotion and lovely flashbacks, which are, I mean, hopefully these memories will live with me for years. But for now, when they come, they're amazing. So recovery is well on its way, and I'm feeling brilliant, to be fair.
Awesome, that's great news. Well, just going back to your 6 physio sessions, what exactly are you doing there? Is this a secret technology, or can you reveal what
No. So when I go to Steve down the road, Steve's someone I referred to before as being in control of my brain as well. He's got more of an old school setup, hands on. We get the legs nice and cold. We flush out any fatigue, and also as the session's going on, we talk, we digest, we take notes, and I get a debrief mentally as well as physically. So it's amazing. Tom up the road has got some of the latest technology, which, for instance, he's got a machine that can charge a muscle with like an electromagnetic field, which pulls the muscle where it needs to be, basically mimicking a workout or a stretch. anything like that. We've been putting a lot of force and a lot of pressure through the Achilles, through the hips, through the upper body as well. So yeah, I've just been prioritising that over moving really, and it's been good.
Was there anything that was a bit of a niggle after the race that you noticed?
Yeah, I'd say my left Achilles. Damien will probably vouch for. Remember, we came down from the Shill onto the road, and I had to take a minute I remember wincing, I think, and my Achilles said, like, if the race was 300 miles, it could have been an issue, but luckily we were, 5K from home. So, but yeah, if there was an issue, it would be my left Achilles. But the one thing I am really happy with is like the way I looked after my feet, and my skin, because in the past I've struggled with skin irritations and stuff like that, especially upper body with a pack on. Considering it was -15 in the wind, with it was dry, but there was a lot of moisture in the air, I suppose, when it was icy. I'm really happy with how that. I think that comes down to general health. Like, my general health was really good, so everything was hydrated, my skin was good. And my feet were, astonishing, to be honest. When I did the Scottish run across the Southern Uplands in October 21, my feet were horrendous, trench foot, really, really big issues. And this time it's been completely different, possibly due to the conditions, but, I had to physically defrost my feet at some checkpoints. So what would you rather have? Deep cold or damp and, muddy?
Yeah, I think that's the question now. I've asked to Damo and to Hannah Rickman, who I spoke to, because Damo was saying how when you think of the spine, when you imagine doing the spine, you imagine what this year was, which is snow, blue skies. But he said the reality of it is it's normally more of a chance of it just being rainy and foggy and your feet being wet and everything all the time.
Yeah.
And Hannah was saying that she was, in the lead up to the race, she was kind of dreading it being like a rain fest and just mud and bog and everything. But it wasn't that. But then you've got the ice to contend with. So what's your sort of what is your preference over terrain then? Is it, did you prefer, because that's, you can say that all the bogs were frozen and easier to get your footing on, but then you've got ice and it's a playoff, isn't it? What do you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, it was easier to get your footing on, but then when you did go through, it was like falling into a -10 bog. You know what I mean? And your foot would literally freeze within a minute of coming out. So that was an issue. I mean, the way the weather played out, I probably carried more kit than I would have done if it was damp and foggy, and between 0 and 5. In fact, 3-4 days before the race, I invested in some more heavy duty stuff because I saw the forecast and I was like, right. So I spent some money on brands that I can trust. Also got some bits in from Innovate last minute just to make sure it covered the deep cold. And my gloves were heavier, but they did the job, because it was, you can't really take a risk when it's between 0 and 5, let alone -5 and -10. But yeah, I mean, if I go back to the spine, then in 10 years' time, then I will sign a document saying, let's have the same weather again, please. Absolutely, the weather was fine.
So are you saying that you're not coming back next year
then? I'd be a fool to make that decision right now here. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't win the race. I did perform, and coming away from it, it feels like a win for me personally. Damien is still another level above me, and that's clear. But for me, it feels like a win. And if I went back, would I have to win the race for it to be a success? I'm not sure that's the right avenue to go down straight away. I don't know if that creates more issues than it solves. And I don't know if that greedy approach is appropriate for me now. I mean, what else can I do if I go back? I suppose I have to win, and I don't like saying that now. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And my race, could it go any better than it did? Right, in a year, 2 years, I'm not so sure. But yeah, there's a decision to be made there. But yeah, sometimes you just got to accept, you know, it worked, it was brilliant at that time, and maybe I can slot into that 4 or 5 years down the line. It doesn't have to be next time. We'll see.
Yeah, that's interesting that you. I just automatically thought that you'd be like, yes, I'm well up for it. I'm coming back, and I'm gonna, you know, sort of right the wrong of
There's no
taking
wrong.
that.
There was no wrong.
Not wrong. No, I just mean the just take going on your little adventure where you went off the course just slightly, and it
was
cost
meant
you time.
It was meant to happen like that. Like I said, if someone would have sat me down and told me how the race went on Saturday morning when I was on my way to registration, I would have snapped your hand off, took you on holiday, and you know what I mean. It would have been that I would have taken the deal I got. I can put it that way. So yeah, if I go back, I suppose I have to win the race, and I'm like I said, I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
When I was speaking to Damien, we were chatting about the fact that it could be an all-star lineup next year as well, because you've got Random Forest runner, the T Dodger. He's coming back next year apparently.
Yeah.
Gary Robbins said he's coming. And there was even a little rumor started within the media team that while I was watching the Instagram stories and everything, while I was putting the stories on, I noticed that Courtney Dauwalter started following the Spine race.
Yeah.
And that started the conversation of imagine if Courtney Dauwalter came over and decided to have a go at the Spine. It'd be it could be interesting.
They're amazing names, and you know the people who are way further up the journey and way further up the chain than me. But I don't think that I'd be drawn in to be like, right, I want to race these people, because when you're out there and you've been out for 72 hours, it's cold, it's wet, you're falling asleep on your feet. You ain't thinking about other people. You think about, what am I in the right place I should be in right now? And if those answers are no, then you are not finishing the race. So, like you, for instance, if I was wanting to run alongside Courtney or John or Gary, you know, what point is it your race? Is it their race? I'm not so sure you should approach a race like that. Not a race where, you know, you have to jump through that hoop and face those demons hundreds of times over 85 hours, I guess.
So how conscious were you? Because when I first saw you for the first time coming through on the course, it was at Wessenden, and you were coming up the hill to cross the road, and there was the 4 of you. So there was obviously Damien, Kim, Eugenie, and yourself. How long had you been in that position, and was that a conscious choice to? Because that is, you know, relatively very early on in the race. Was that a conscious thing to stick together?
No, I don't think so. I think Eugenie was there because he had to be honest. That's the vibe I felt. And I mean, even early on, leaving the reservoir, I think we left the reservoir, and then I led the climb up, and I pulled the field a little bit. But I was even saying earlier on to myself, you know, there's 4 of us in this pack here. 2 of these people aren't going to finish. Make sure it's not you. And I was asking that question probably all the way up to maybe just keeping that in my mind. You know, the law of averages suggests that if you're at the sharp end of this race, 2 of these people here aren't going to finish. And then I remember there was a point we climbed. I seemed to be climbing better than others, but on the flats, my gait was a little bit shorter than Kim and a little bit shorter than Damien's. And then I think Damien physically skipped past me on a flagstone. Kim went with him, and the gap was probably 15 minutes, but I made a decision then that gate was just not as comfortable as I'd like. So, we dropped into checkpoint 1. I made a slight detour. I did about 5 minutes because I missed the turning because there was a bus in the way. But yeah, unfortunately, I had to run the first night on my own, which was difficult. But if I could have physically been 15 minutes further ahead with them, but I made a conscious decision then to be like, right, settle in. Find your feet. Once you settle, you'll be fine. Hopefully that comes, you know, soon. And the first night was extremely difficult. I was sort of in no man's land. Dougie wasn't really catching me. I wasn't really catching them. It was a tough first night with the sleep monsters and stuff. And then when sun come up on Monday morning, I was in a great position. And being 15, 20, 30 minutes further up the trail would have been a mistake. Although I was physically capable, early on, I made a decision that, no, let's just settle in on your own. I ended up doing 100 kilometers on my own, which was difficult, but at the time it was relevant.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember seeing you coming through. So I saw your game when you came through Hawes.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, and Damien and Kim had been through earlier, and I noted. I said this to Damien yesterday that I could tell between the two of them that Damien was the sort of he still got his like sense of humour. He was laughing and joking, but Kim just seemed a bit subdued and tired. And I thought, I wonder whether they'll be able to stick together for much longer, or if something's going to happen. And it obviously did until later on.
Yeah.
That Kim dropped out, which is it's a shame because he must be not kicking himself. I know he put a post on today saying how he's definitely coming back next year and third time's a charm and everything. So I mean that's the thing about the spine, isn't it? I mean now you've done it.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, and like you say that. If someone had predicted to you and said to you, this is how it's going to pan out, that you and Damo would be coming in together, you would have a guaranteed second place, podium on your first winter spine. Yeah. You can't really say fairer than that, can you?
No, I mean, the key things in the race happened at the right time for me. I mean, I left Hawes and we climbed Great Shunnafell. I knew I'd be faster than Dougie and James up there. And I was in a really, really good position. My body felt incredible. And that's when I settled. So I was telling myself, allow this race to develop, stay in the race. Once you settle, you'll be fine. And I did settle on Great Shunnafell, maybe 115 miles in. And then I knew, I had to lie down at Hawes, but I'm talking like 5-6 minutes just to reset and have a think. It was more of a thinking lie down than a sleep. And then Great Shunnafell. And I was just trying to be honest, at that point, I was thinking, right, so you're in third place. Can you take credit out of Dougie's bank and put it in yours? Just make that gap as much as you can and control your race. And then, heading up to Tan Hill, I got the news that Kim was out. And my race changed a little bit, heading down the moor and then up and over to Middleton. And I'd settled then, and I was in dreamland. I was making the right decisions, and I was just oozing positivity. Like I was thoroughly enjoying it, which was worth the decision not to run with them 30 miles earlier.
Yeah, because it could have been you that was dropping out rather than Kim by that point.
I mean, I'd identified that I'm willing to run on my own. I'm willing to do the rough stuff and sleep in the snow. I'm willing to do whatever. Like I need to be versatile. I need to adapt to every single situation which is presented to me. And my mindset was so bulletproof that even if I stubbed my toe, even if I dropped a bar on the floor, even if I snapped a pole, it was meant to happen like that. It was meant to be like that. It was meant to, bounce off the wall like that. And that was, those decisions were made in a session I did with my psychologist on the Friday night. Where we identified the first 140 miles as a long run with friends. I trained with Kim, I trained with Damien. They were friends of mine. They're older than me, and they're idols of mine. And he made me believe that if it came down to it, I've just got 140 miles to run with friends to Middleton, let the race develop, and then see what happens after you've had a sleep. And that's basically what happened. But then I had to spin that a bit because dropping into Hebden, it was a little bit too quick. So I trusted my instincts and ran on my own all night. And it was the best decision I've ever made in a race.
Wow. That's interesting. That's a lot of like narrative, the fact that you kind of worked that out with your sports psychologist before. So is this something that, you had gone into the race with that plan intentionally in the weeks before, or was this just something that you just decided the night before the race?
No, it was the Friday night. I mean, I went for my last physio session and we tried, and then we opened the doors to the mental aspect, and we sat down and we spoke about, he did a Havening technique on me, which unlocks the subconscious area of the brain, which allows you to make decisions without actually being in that situation. So I'd made massive race decisions on the Friday night. So when they came, when I needed to sleep in the snow on High Cup Nick, it wasn't bloody hell, this is scary or hard. It was, I'm down, I'm done, I'm back up. It was it was done. The decisions were made, and it developed, and I allowed it to develop exactly as I wanted to, I guess. I felt bulletproof, and I in my own skin, not in someone else's race. Like, I just felt amazing, and I just drew on the experiences I've had in the past and trusted my instincts and just stayed awake, I guess.
Amazing. So tell me about the sleeping in the snow then. Was so that wasn't your intention, or no. Was it? Is that no?
No, I knew I could do it because I've done it before, where I've literally just slept, on a bench by the River Tweed in Scotland, I think, and on the floor. And I was willing to stay in control. And if I'm 10 hours away from a bed, we worked out that I could do it. And when I did do it, it wasn't very nice, especially later on in the race. I remember I did it I dropped to the floor, set my alarm for 8 minutes. I think I had my phone in a pocket up here. And I'd just fallen in a bog, and my feet were cold. I didn't realize until I woke up, and I thought, wow, if that was another 10 minutes, I could have actually been in trouble here with the cold feet. But yeah, I've got the ability to do that, but I had to settle. And you have to earn the right, I said before, earn the right to show your characteristics in a race like this, and you should be okay. And I earned the right by doing that 100K on my own the first night. I earned the right to be in control and make those race decisions when they needed to come. And I would have done anything, to be honest. I was willing to do anything to just keep moving.
Wow, that's really interesting. I know I'd asked Damo and Hannah what went right and what went wrong. So, I mean, is that a stupid question to you now then, in view of the way that you approached the race? Did things go right? Did things go wrong? Because you're sort of saying that everything happened for a reason and it was meant to be.
We identified fears that I had in the race. We identified the fact that, Damien's done the Pennine Way, I want to say 6 times. He's wrote the guidebook. He should know every turn and everything. I hadn't done that. So we identified with the psychologist that if you make a navigation error, if you go off course, X, Y, and Z, which happened, the one that we'll speak about later wasn't the one that's annoying me. It's the one on Crossfell, which is the one that's annoying me. But yeah, we'd identified that as a fear, and when it came, it didn't affect my race because I'd already jumped through that hoop. I'd already decided that it was okay to make the odd mistake. So it wasn't a negative energy at all. So it wasn't really processed. It was just accepted.
Yeah, my camera's gone off again, but we're all right. We're back on. Be okay. I'm back. Yeah, so I think that's quite a unique perspective. I've not heard anybody be so, not matter of fact, but sort of all accepting of all the outcomes that could possibly happen. So essentially, you're setting yourself up to be kind of invincible. Yeah. In the race. Would there have been any scenario where you would have thought, well, I wasn't prepared for this, and no amount of psychology could have prepared me for this?
Yeah, there was times when I was physically talking to my body, saying, don't do that. Don't do that in your hip. Don't do that in your Achilles. Don't do that in your hamstring. Please don't. I'm not going to lie. There was times I was like, right, well, you need a bit of luck to set up that sort of bulletproof shield. But no, not really. I mean, I was cursing to myself when I made the navigation error on Crossfell, which I've actually gone through the maps and looked at the time and difference that it cost me. I lost probably about 18 minutes on Crossfell, but I remember when I got back on trail, I was moving faster than I would have been if I hadn't made the nav error. So I'd put money in Dougie's bank because I'd made the nav error, but I knew I was moving 3 or 4 minutes a mile faster because of the nav error. But that's a risk, your hamstring's got to be able to deal with that. your Achilles has got to be able to deal with that. And it did. But yeah, there was a funny moment, like I tripped and I stubbed my toe bad heading into Alston, and I was cursing and it was painful. And I took my shoe off on the trail in the snow, and I thought, I don't know why I did that now, because I was only about 5A, but I put my shoe back on and I headed over the bridge, I think. And I think I just nodded my head like that was meant to be like that. I don't know, that's just the mindset I was in. And I was sleep deprived then. I'd had 2 hours, an hour and a half maybe, but I just kept that clear picture in my brain that every step you make is meant to land there and there. Everything you eat, it's got to be at that time, meant to be at that time. And I just let the race do what it wanted with me, I suppose.
Wow. So just thinking about that the big nav error, then could talk us through what actually happened with that, because we didn't really hear about it till later on in the race.
Yeah.
What exactly happened then?
So the sleep I mentioned when I got the cold foot it was ironic, because when I'd recce'd the route, I'd gone straight through the forest in December, and it was churned up bad. They made the right decision not to do that because it was dangerous. There was trees all over the place from forestry work. But we were on the gravel road around and in and out, and the road was frozen, just like an ice sheet. And I remember, I think I'd gone through some ice, and then about 4 minutes later, I decided, right, let's have a sleep. Woke up, feet were freezing cold, was down on the ground for about 8 minutes. So I was refreshing. I remember I was shouting to myself, come on, recharge, regroup, let's move. And I remember I come around the corner, and there was a hiker there who was in a yellow jacket. I think he might have been foreign, I think. And we were at the diversion sign, and there was 2 signs pointing right. So I've got my phone here. So he's asked me a question about the route. I pulled my phone out, and my GPS on my phone, and my phone was actually orientated that way. So a right hand bend looked like a left hand bend, and I went left. And I went left for about 500-600 meters, realized that the only footprints on the ground were that of a fox. Checked again, and then accepted the fact that I'd made a navigation error, and accepted the fact that it was going to be there was going to be an issue. And then I was about 2.5 miles away from the mini checkpoint at a farm, Hornistead.
Yeah. And
I wanted to make it apparent as soon as I walked in there that I wanted someone to know that there was nothing sinister in it. So I think there was a member of maybe a mountain rescue or spine safety team. There was a van parked outside. And I said, can you please text or message a WhatsApp group with a senior race member and just say, Jack understands he's made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
He's aware of it. There's nothing sinister. We'll sort it out at Bellingham or something like that. And there was people in the checkpoint who backed me up saying, I was uncomfortable there and I wanted to make sure people knew. So then I up and over, drop into Bellingham. I walk in, I think I speak to Kev, who's one of the senior race directors who was following us all the way up.
Kevin McCann, yeah.
Yeah, I think he must have seen it, and I explained what had happened. And then I said, I understand that there's going to be repercussions here, not a problem whatsoever. Let me know, whatever it is. And that was that. He came back about half an hour later, once I'd eaten and done my feet, and he explained the situation. And actually, one of the most amazing things happened in my whole running career then. Cringy word. I was sorted. I was ready to leave, and I FaceTimed my wife, and I explained. I think it was R5, maybe. She was up with the dog, and I FaceTimed my wife saying, "Oh, I've been given this penalty. My race is going amazing. How are you doing? I love you. I've been given this penalty." And she was like, "What do you think? What does it mean for the race?" And I was like, "Oh, Damien's got." Obviously, there's the goodwill bit, which we can talk about in a minute, for like 8 minutes or whatever it was. But yeah, it's funny how everything happens for a reason in this crazy race. So I'm there, I FaceTime my wife, and we're talking, and she says, "How far is it to Burness?" I said, "Oh, it's about 15, 16 miles. She says, "What do you think you could go for it and try and open up a lead?" And I was sitting there and I was thinking, yeah, I think I can. Like, let's have a go. Like, my body was willing to do it. My mind was making the decision. So I remember saying, yeah, I think we were like, come on, let's have a go. And left the checkpoint about 4 minutes later, and that was the fastest I moved all the way of the whole race. I think was
Really?
15. It was it was a magical feeling, honestly, knowing that Dougie's 20 miles behind, Damien's asleep, and I've got a chance to can I lose now? I don't think so. Even if I lose a leg, maybe I can still finish on the third. And that was that imagination, and that race picture in my brain was absolutely incredible. Things changed dropping into Beness. The hallucinations were horrendous, and I dropped into Beness, and I remember just like talking to my subconscious, thinking, hopefully you've got years and another opportunity. Maybe it's not this time with the 40-minute penalty. So I dropped into Beness, had some food, reassessed my race, and then settled down thinking, you've had a good go then. That was amazing and exciting. But yeah, live to fight another day, and let's just finish this thing off in the snow. But those decisions, I'll never forget that FaceTime with Jess. It was unbelievable, like just smiling with the energy and be like, let's have a go and see what the hell happens.
What do you think? What do you think? Just playing devil's advocate, what do you think would have happened if you'd not taken that wrong turn and you'd not had that penalty? How do you think things would have panned out from that point onwards?
I know the answer to this. I think I wouldn't have slept at Bellingham. Again, I had 5 minutes to literally close my eyes and think. I was lying on the floor, but I didn't sleep there. The one thing that I've come away with, and this is me trying to bridge the gap to the elite runners like Damien, is his composure and his classiness over the Cheviots. I mean, he'd had more sleep and he'd won the race then because we were together. But I was a bit frantic, and I was a little bit erratic, and I was a little bit sporadic. And he wasn't. He was sort of, right, we're going to be up here for 10 hours in massive amounts of snow. He showed his experience there, and he would have won the race. I think if the snow wasn't as bad, I think we could have both broken Jasmine's record, though. I do think that.
How far off the record were you? Because I didn't take note of this, but it was.
I think Damien was 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
But I mean, yeah, it was 4 foot snow. It was horrendous. It was 2 miles an hour. If that is 3 miles an hour or 3.5 miles an hour on the flagstones, there's a big difference. So when I left Beness and I pushed on the hill, and and I've heard Damien's speak, I was pushing. I just thought maybe there's one more push. Maybe there's a 10-minute gap here. And then at the top, I made a silly nav error and I got lost. It was only 100 meters, but it slowed me down. And I came back on the train and I was like, no, I can't race anymore here. Something stupid is going to happen. I know he was waiting about 50 meters ahead, and I approached him, and I think he hugged me. He said, I think in a post. I thought we sort of shook hands, but it was an embrace, and it was again another moment I won't forget. It was surreal for me to be up there in that scenario with him, and that was the race done. But then the one thing I said to him straight away is like, let's get under John's time. And we managed to.
Amazing. Yeah. And we know that that's riled him, because he's straight away he was telling us how he was coming back next year, definitely. So I think I mean, it must have been amazing seeing. Well, did you see? Was it? It wasn't even daylight, was it, when you're on the Cheviot? So you wouldn't have even.
Yeah, it was daylight. Yeah.
So
say it was daylight or it wasn't.
Was it daylight? I can't even remember.
Yeah. So I think we headed out of Beness at around 11:30, up onto the snow, and I thought we'd get down in daylight, but I think we came off the Cheviot down to the shore, and we finished at about 8:30. So we were probably at Hut 2 at around 6:30. But I mean, there's pictures online of amazing sunset and amazing conditions, but not race conditions. Holy moly! So, and I mean, in another dimension, I would have raced in there, and I could have literally hallucinated so bad that I would have passed out in the snow not been in control of that sleep. So yeah, it was meant to happen the way it was, and I'm extremely grateful and blessed to have got myself in that situation.
So no regrets in any way?
No, I made the decision. Like I said, Bellingham was amazing, exciting and brilliant, but Burness was like a mature, a long-term approach. As long as you get on the John's time, as long as you keep the work rate high, don't just don't just simmer down. Keep the work rate high, get on the John's time. This is a dreamland for you, Jack. Don't mess it up. And yeah, that the maturity to make that race decision is the most amazing outcome of this race for me.
Amazing. So when I spoke to Damien, I sort of asked him what his kind of favourite moments were of the race. Then I know you obviously spoke about that moment where you were talking to your wife, FaceTiming your wife, but were there any points in the race that where you actually stopped to appreciate where you were and the views that you'd got? Because I think he was talking about, was he talking about Shunnafell when he went over there, or Crossfell?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think he enjoyed Crossfell a little bit more than me as well. Again, I'd never been in snow that deep. So it was beautiful and brutal, but it wasn't something I'd really done before, that amount of snow. And it's different when you're leading the race. There's different elements of the rabbit and the hare, or the rabbit and the tortoise, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, the highlight, obviously, I remember coming up there, the last climb, my Achilles was about to disintegrate, and I had a drop in energy, and I think Damien gave me a little Kendall mint cake chew, and we just took a minute, and I ate that. We walked up the hill, and then I came down, and I think I saw you about a minute after this, but I was saying, I could see all the people, and I was saying, I'd love it if I've got a family member there, and then obviously my mum, my stepdad and my dad were there. That was, my wife couldn't come because she had work commitments, but that was a magic moment. Just a surreal journey for me from years ago, and from different aspects of my life that I've been down. It's just the most amazing opportunity, and yeah, it's class out, everything. Stubbing my toe was the best bit.
Just, I suppose, when you sort of coming down and seeing all the lights and everything, I know as I was running down with you, Damo made a comment about all the razzmatazz and everything, that he was saying, we didn't have all this razzmatazz in my day, saying how the race has sort of progressed and turned into, every year it gets bigger and bigger into this giant media beast that it is now. How did it feel when you you knew the job was done and you could see those lights and you knew that you'd come to the end of that journey? How did you, were you too tired to kind of contemplate the emotion of it, or did you feel it?
No, I wasn't too tired to. Damien was telling me to enjoy it more than I was letting on. Like, I'm quite quiet and like the dark, like the bright lights and the cameras and stuff, not really my thing. I understand that it was a brilliant performance and it was running alongside Damien, there's going to be that, but I was, I think he said, he asked me how we're going to celebrate, and I was like, I'm not really going to kiss. I wasn't being miserable, the bouncing ball of fun that I am, but I'm like, let's touch the wall, let's get in, defrost, and let's go to bed. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of who I am. But it felt like the end of a 3-year journey. Like, I know Damien's got a much longer association with the race, or a 4 or 5 year journey. And I thought about my wife, and it just feels like the end, and to the end of something, just to lay down an elite performance and then come away from that, and hopefully a few different avenues open up in my life now, and I can look back on what that massive chunk of work and life and experience, and then but just be like, you know what, when things are laid out in front of you, maybe you can actually do this and mix it with these amazing runners and paint your own picture. So I was just I suppose I was reviewing things before I'd even gone over the finish line.
Yeah, you've got that time, haven't you, to contemplate it. Just thinking about how things have changed for you then. So going into the race, I know I was speaking to a few people about this, how so those pre-spine interviews that I did with a few people, and obviously you were one of them.
Yeah.
I had a moment where it was, you know, I'm trying to think what day it was, but we were at Kirkyeton, so obviously it was close to the end of the race. And I was sat with the media team, and Jenny from the spine race, she got a laptop up, and she'd got her the spine YouTube videos all up and everything. And I noticed just down the side where it gives like the recommended videos down the side, I was like, oh, there's my interview with Jack. And I looked at it and thought, that can't be my interview with Jack. It's got 1,600 views. So when I'd left, after we'd done that interview together, and I'd left to go to the spine, I just had a look, and I think that most of them were on about 200 or 300 views, and literally like overnight it had gone like shot up to like 1.6, 1.7 thousand, and it's just gone up and gone up and gone up. Yeah, because obviously people had kind of, you know, unless you're somebody in the know of the race and knowing you personally as a racer, knowing your sort of results, you were kind of a bit of an unknown runner going into that race. So obviously everyone was like, who is he? Who's Jack Scott? Let's Google him. And obviously I was probably the only video on there. I'd put the only video on the interview, and people wanted to find out. So everybody kind of found out what bits of information they could from that video that we did together. Yeah. So what has changed then? So I know you said that when I spoke to you the day after the race that the phone's been busy. So what because going into the race, you were an ambassador for Innovate, weren't you? You weren't you definitely weren't an elite runner for Innovate. So how were things changed having this result now for you?
Yeah, well, firstly, I really appreciate the opportunity to, without the performance, without the time, without beating John's time coming in with Dane, you know, I just want to run. Like, I just want to have adventures and do things, don't get me wrong, as fast as I can, but you know, you gave me the platform to talk about, you know, some of the issues I've had in the past, because fairy tales don't exist and there's always a dark. If there's a light, there's a dark. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, since the race, it's, everything's magnified by 20 or 30 or 40, whatever. And I think I've dealt with it okay. Not whatever, like we're on BBC News the next day and all that nonsense, which was a good fun. And I had 2 radio interviews on the way home. I don't even remember what I said. I was exhausted in the car. My dad just kept putting his thumb up saying, "You're doing great." I was like, don't know what I'm saying, don't know where I am. I don't mind, you know, I don't mind that. I mean, I'm just, without all the noise and all the lights, I can look in the mirror and be satisfied and sit here with my wife and the dog and just be like, I've put that much in that you have to do, obviously, you have to take risks. And all you've got to do is set yourself up to be who you are. And a race like the Spine allows that. And I just portrayed my personality in the way I raced. And that I was just myself. And I just want to be in that situation again, or in that situation more. I want to improve, and I'd like to think, touch wood, with, you know, I want to stay injury free, and I do want to have a career and do adventure races, whether it be short, long, medium, whatever. And like your Instagram following quadruples, your coaching business fills up, and there's questions to be had on, can you simplify your life, prioritize training? But I'm also wary that, you know, I've managed to lay down an amazing performance within myself. And I was still a steel fixer. I was still getting up for work at God knows what time. And sometimes in life, you push into a corner and you have to push back with the same force. And there's hopefully doors will open from here. But also, you did it the hard way. And sometimes the hard way is the best way. There's different questions to be answered. But just to get home safe to my wife and be satisfied, look in the mirror that I literally worked hard and gave everything I had, was was the most satisfying thing to come from it. And for her to say, you know, it worked and it was right at the right time for the family and stuff, just class, amazing. Makes me emotional.
Yeah. I know when we spoke the next day, your family was super proud of how you done, and obviously they said that you know, it wasn't, you know, specifically this. They were always proud of you for whenever you race and everything you do. So got a good family backing you, haven't you?
There is a family feel to it because I am younger, and obviously my parents are still worried about their little boy, I suppose. But yeah, I talk about the bubble and the team I've got, and you know, there's people involved in my life which they don't even realize how important they are to me. You know, my mum and dad, my sister, my wife, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, the lads at work, absolutely amazing. And I'm a sponge and I take what I can from people. And yeah, it's a funny place where your mind goes when you're trying to race the sharp end of the spine and who you think about. And yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Wow, brilliant. Well, you know, I'm sure, like I said to you the day after the race, I'm sure this is like only the beginning of your, you know, things that you've got planned for your running career. Now that you can say you've got a career, I know it's like probably cringe a little bit saying it, but yeah, you've definitely got, you definitely go in places.
Yeah.
Not just to Kirk Yetton. Have you got any plans as far as like, is this success kind of changed the way you're viewing other races that you're looking at?
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose it has. Like, you know, you need time to, like the philosophy I've just preached about letting things develop and showing who you are when the times are really hard, when you want to sleep in a hole for 3 days but you can't, you know. But I'm also keen to be versatile and different. Like, I don't know if I said before, but 3 days after Christmas, so less than 12 days before the event, or 2 weeks, I was 11 seconds off my 5K PB. You know, so things were just where they should be, and I just slotted into the long run. And yeah, so I want to be. I understand that, you know, say if I wanted to win really competitive fell races in the Lake District, you know, I've just done a 270-mile race, so April and May, you know, might look a bit different. But yeah, I don't want to be put under one bracket of a long distance endurance athlete. I want to be trying everything, you know, while I'm young, and then maybe I'll slot into a really specific category as time develops. But I just want to stay injury free and run with a smile on my face, have adventures, and yeah, that's what this year is going to be now. And just let things come and let things go and let things flow, I guess.
That's the beauty of ultra, isn't it? That it's such a vast, like, diversity with the races that you can do and adventures that you can have, that you never be bored, will you, with choices? No,
I mean, I want to be competitive. Obviously, I want to do my best and be as fast as I can, but new places, new adventures. I'm intrigued to spread my wings, and you know, I'd love to do a massive long race in the States or on the continent, you know, and just see how I fare there. So we'll see what opportunities come and what's around the corner. But yeah, I'm open to everything, anything and everything. Let's see what happens.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you get up to over this coming year, and wish you all the best. And thanks for coming on again and giving us your debrief of the spine. Appreciate you telling us all about it.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the platform, and hopefully people find it interesting and maybe a different view. Hello, I'll show you the puppy. It's not a puppy.
Yeah, shows the dog. Yeah. Getting bigger.
Yeah, there was a moment in the race when I was like, you just got to get home to your wife and this little dog. So yeah, she was in my mind as well. But yeah, thanks so much for the chat again. And
no worries, mate. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Hopefully the videos are successful and people can benefit from them.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah, you know, I've had loads of comments from people about, you know, your last chat that we had. How everyone was just so impressed with your attitude and sort of took on board everything that you were saying about training and everything. So I'm sure you're going to be tapped up for people wanting coaching. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a different dynamic to long distance running, and if you can unlock 5% of your mental capacity and your mental efficiency, you're in the right zone. So yeah, I knew I was in good enough condition to complete the race, and it was my mind that got me 85 hours.
Yeah,
basically.
Brilliant. Well, outstanding performance, mate. And,
Thank you.
Wish you all the best, Mal. I'm sure our paths will cross again soon. And it was lovely chatting to you again. Cheers, mate.
Top man. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Okay, so we didn't get a chance to do an intro because of my technical issues, but we've got an outro instead. So what I was going to mention in the intro is that the podcast is still sponsored by Goku Projects. Check them out if you can. That was a good chat. I really enjoyed chatting to Jack. He's I think he's got wisdom beyond his years, it seems, and I'm really looking forward to see how he does in the future. He's got a great career ahead of him. I'm sure we're going to see great things from him. So hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, go on all the socials and everything, and like and subscribe on YouTube and everything. It helps me to, push things forward and get more guests and everything. So appreciate all your support, everybody who's liking and commenting and subscribing. So keep it up. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode.